Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Dan, and Spencer. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Tuesday evening stream. It is that weird time of the year between Christmas and New Year's that nobody knows what time it is, what day it is, and whether or not we're coming or going because everybody's either fat, drunk, or both, or the two. I am neither at the minute, which really beats the Irish stereotype, but the evening is young, so who knows. But realistically, I think everybody kind of knows what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get into that, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos. If you don't know what we're going to be talking about today, Spencer has a hint on his wall behind him, just in case anybody needs a hint as to what it is. It's Trent Alexander-Arnold and the contract situation. Of course it is. Liverpool earlier yesterday, received a bid of around 20 million euros, or thereabouts, 20 to 25 million euros in relation to the purchasing of Trent Alexander-Arnold this January. Now, there are millions of assumptions that you can make from this. One of which that I think has occurred is the fact that Trent obviously knew about this. There's no way he couldn't have. In some capacity, his camp had to give the go-ahead for that. And so that would indicate that Trent is possibly speaking to them behind closed doors, or his representatives are, and I'm not sure which is worse, because he's been telling the club that he hasn't given any indication to leave and that he's not talking to anybody else. Make of that what you will. But, Spencer, I suppose it's an interesting question that possibly Trent is waiting for a deal to be on the table from Madrid in an official capacity to then present it to Liverpool and then say, match it. Do you think that possibly could be a situation?
I don't know why it wouldn't be. Just from the player's perspective, I know like club loyalty, and I thought he was Liverpool through and through. That's why I have his jersey behind me. But it does make business sense for him to do something like that. I have a hard time believing that he would be doing it as like a negotiation tactic. My gut feel for this, I have nothing to base it off of except for more just like a gut feel, is that he probably, if he is entertaining them, he wants to go. It's because he wants a change of scenery, and it's not really about the money or trying to use leverage against one club or the other. It's just he wants to go play somewhere else for whatever reason. Probably not because he doesn't love Liverpool anymore. He probably just wants a change of scenery, and he's playing coy until the Real Madrid interest is concrete, as in they've submitted a bid for him, or until they've submitted an actual contract proposal to him. So that's my read on it. But I mean, I guess it would make sense if he's using the bid just to get more money against Liverpool. It would make sense.
Yeah. Dan, myself and yourself are quite usually the voices of reason, but it's getting to the point now where even I'm getting a little bit pissed off with this. I won't lie. To the tune where I'd imagine a lot of fans are in a very similar vein at the moment of just tell us, like, are you going, just come out and just say something. Just something. That's all you have to do, is just say the club, I haven't spoken to Madrid yet. Even if he said I haven't spoken to Madrid yet, that quells anything. All he has to do is say something along those lines. But he's kept quiet amid all sorts of aggravation and to the ire of many fans, including a lot of our own guys in the group chat and everything like that have labelled him as a Judas. And to be perfectly honest, I think that label will stick if he does end up going. Your opinions on it? Now, obviously, the Scouse opinion is different to the non-Scouse opinion. And obviously, both yourself and Spencer being non-Scouse in the very traditional sense of the term, I guess is the best way to describe it. How are you viewing him as a player and your view of him? Do you still consider him a Liverpool legend if he leaves, or is it in the same vein as Michael Owen and Steve McManaman? Give the non-Scouse point of view, I suppose.
I don't think that it'll go the way of Michael Owen, because honestly, the thing that sunk Owen was the United situation. It wasn't even the fact he went to Madrid or how that was done, because Michael Owen essentially gave his hamstrings to Gerard Houllier and that team from the late 90s to early 2000s. So I think for Owen, people are going to bring up Michael Owen just because of how derided he is, or how apathetic I think people are to Michael Owen being someone who technically won a Ballon d'Or coming out of Liverpool's academy, when you have other players at the time like Robbie Fowler who didn't win prestigious awards, or McManaman who went to Madrid on the free. So I don't. Madrid putting in the bid is interesting to me because obviously we're speculating that Madrid are given some insight that Liverpool would budge on a bid. However, it's Real Madrid, and Real Madrid have an attitude of they don't care what the club says or what the agent says. They're just going to bid and see what happens, because that's just how Madrid act. Madrid very much act in this very, I don't want to say arrogant.
Say it. It's true.
Entitled. I don't think it's arrogance. It's entitlement that Madrid feel they should get any player they want, and they will get any player they want based on the fact that Real Madrid, and they were backed by the Franco's French state for about 40 years. But we're not going to talk about that. That's a whole nother conversation. People are going to say, is Trent going to be a legend if he leaves or not? If Trent leaves, he's still going to be a Liverpool legend after the fact way down the line. I mean, for about the rest of his playing career, he may not be a Liverpool legend. He'll be derided, but Liverpool fans are forgiving traditionally. There are players that they've considered. Well, Mark Lawrence. Mark Lawrence is considered a legend from way back when, even though he's a terrible pundit, and he's done things with certain news outlets that we will not talk about. Yeah. But he's still considered a legend, even though he has made mistakes in the past. I think that Madrid bidding so low is more of a desperation on Real Madrid's part, because the only reason you're bidding for Trent Alexander-Arnold is because they have no defenders. It's more desperation on Madrid, and they're just throwing money at Liverpool, seeing what response they'll get. I do find it interesting that if Madrid feel like they're having to bid for him, then that tells me that one, they need him, and two, there's no guarantee that he goes to Madrid, because the only reason you try to buy in Real Madrid's position, this is the logic of it. If you're convinced he's signing you for the summer, there's no reason for you to bid, to spend money. It's like you already know what he wants. You have the contract signed up and everything. But Madrid right now in a position in the league and the Champions League where they need players. So if you're not convinced he's coming in and you need someone in now to play the defense right back, just someone to come in and help out the situation, then you put the bid in and you see what happens. And that's why I'm not convinced that it's either his agents or Trent that gave him the go ahead. They're probably, obviously, his agency's probably talking back and forth, seeing what they're willing to offer, what Liverpool are offering, comparing offers, whatever they're negotiating with his representatives, how many third part rights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Contract talks. It's just going to be a situation that drags on until either he goes to Madrid or he signs a new contract. And that's just the long and short of it. And honestly, in both worlds, I'm okay with it. I say okay with it. If Trent Alexander-Arnold goes, it's obviously a blow because he comes from Liverpool Academy, regardless of the transfer fee they'd get for him. But it's the kind of prestige of losing one of your bright, not young anymore, but developing talents that you weren't able to hang on to him. But if Trent goes and Virg and Mo stay, it's not the end of the world. Connor Bradley's, we've played well without Trent Alexander-Arnold before. Connor Bradley's come to the system. There are other right backs. He is a phenomenon in how you play right back in that position. But if he goes, it's not the end of the world. People are going to be mad at FSG. People are going to be mad at, whoever. Everyone's going to catch blame for this. Klopp, FSG, Hughes, Edwards, Schmatka, Julian Ward, Linda Henry, everyone who obviously people who run the club, we all know that Linda's over there telling erasing zeros off Trent's contract offer. It's interesting to me because I've never seen Madrid be this desperate to sign a player that Marca is saying he's already put pen to paper.
Well, look at Mbappe. There was no bid ever made for Mbappe.
Oh, exactly. Because he was going. Everyone knew he was going. Mbappe knew. PSG knew. PSG kept giving him more offers, and he's just like, "I'm going."
Yeah. So that's also a factor of it as well. And damn it, Dad, giving me hope. Just looking at a couple of the comments here, we see from Kalechi here. Makes no sense. It would seem more like Madrid infatuation than a problem with Liverpool. El Hero mentioning in the last 12 months, no way is he worth 300k. That'd be very true as well. And Derek here disagreeing with you, Dan, on this. And sorry, Dan, I disagree. He goes on a free. His legend status will be in jeopardy. Leaving us with nothing for what is a 9-figure asset is unacceptable. He's barely he's already at the best club, period. And I think that latter point is very hard.
I agree. I agree because Liverpool is such in a good place. You're very much like Madrid right now. Madrid, and they're always going to have that appeal, but they're not this cash-rich club. They can't buy every player they want. They have FFP issues too. Well, they have FFP constraints they have to go through. That's why they have all this attacking talent and no defenders. I'm not saying it's a good decision or a bad look. I understand going to Madrid in a very romantic. It's like going to Italy in the 80s, but I think people forget that there are quote unquote Liverpool legends who have left the club either on freeze or for transfer fees, and we still consider them legends. Like Fowler went to Leeds and went to City. Owen's not, but not the point. I'm sure McManaman went to Madrid. I don't like they're a bit before our time as supporters, so it's up to them. But Steve McManaman, I still think is thought of highly. Redknapp, not so much. Jamie Redknapp, but Aldridge went to Sociedad. He was here he was in Liverpool for 2 years. Kevin Keegan left Liverpool. He was one of the big ones sold. Ian Rush was sold to Juventus for a year.
You're saying the key word though, Dan. Sold.
Well, sold, left, whatever you want to say it as well. But players have left before. Either Gerrard left on a free as well. Granted, he was at the end of his career.
Yeah. But
obviously,
Greenwood also came in for Gerrard multiple times too, and there was multiple teams that came in for Gerrard, and he never went to any one of them. Now, possibly with some persuasion from undesirables, we'll say in some instances, but and for the betterment of his kneecaps, I'm sure that was obviously an encouragement as well. But the way I think a lot of people's ire towards this is that Philip Coutinho and Luis Suarez all sort of extended deals and had gentleman agreements and whatnot, and there was clauses there and whatnot. Alexi McAllister in December, before we got him, extended his deal so that it didn't end in that summer, and there was a gentleman's agreement put in there that if a Champions League or a bigger club came in that he could go, that got the club money rather than him leaving on a free. That's all it would take. I guarantee you, if he left last summer and said, Klopp's gone, I want to try a new challenge now, nobody would have this opinion of him. Not a single person. People will be angry that he's leaving. People will be annoyed at the club, being like, "Oh, why couldn't you keep Klopp and whatnot?" And the anger will be directed in a different way. But I can guarantee you, nobody would look at him in the same vein of traitor, I suppose is the word that's been thrown around quite a lot for the likes of Michael Owen. And I know it's kind of because he came back and went to Man United and all the stuff that he does there. This is also what I'm on about as well with Derek here. Him going on a free also brings his comments about it means more into question. And all of his comments, if you notice his comments up until this year and then the last sort of 9 months worth of comments, it's always been team. I want to be captain. I want to spend the rest of my career here. I want to do that. And then all of a sudden, since summer, it's kind of changed to, oh, well, I've already won everything here. I don't want to be known as somebody that only won trophies at a young age. I want to win a Ballon d'Or. He's never winning a Ballon d'Or. I don't care whoever put that into his head. Genuinely does not have his best interests at heart. And if it's his brother, the less said about that, the better, because his brother is his agency. There's all of this aspect as well, and then the flip flopping in the interviews of the past 4 months of saying, "Oh, trophies aren't everything" to Eze, but then in the same breath saying, "Oh, well, I don't want to be known as the guy that only won trophies at a young age," and then saying, "I want to win the Ballon d'Or over it. I'd rather a Ballon d'Or over another Champions League trophy." Reverse that with what Salah said when asked about the Ballon d'Or literally 72 hours ago. I'm gonna have to take that shirt down.
I know Steven wants to Spencer wants to hop in here a little bit too, but I don't want to dominate this. My pushback against both McAllister, Suarez, and all the other stuff too is that the Liverpool also in a different financial situation. So with Suarez, they needed to sell Suarez if they.
No, I get that. Look, but at the same, but
Coutinho.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And the club was in a different position then, because while we were doing okay, we needed that next extra 2 steps. But the problem is now is we're at the top. We physically cannot play a team that is higher positioned than us in both the Premier League and the Champions League. It is a physical impossibility. We pumped Real Madrid, albeit a slightly weakened Real Madrid, but Real Madrid nonetheless. And that hasn't happened in about 7 or 8 years. And the club looks way better than it is now. We're on course to possibly win a quadruple. And if we went to absolute shit this year, if we went to absolute shit and we were in 10th and whatnot, and the club had fallen apart and they were all looking to go, not a problem. You can see, you'd be like, right, I don't want to be part of a rebuild. That's all cool. No problem. You're in the prime of your career. That you can understand that if the club decided to just turn around and do a rebuild and let Salah and Van Dijk walk as well and let themselves fall on the sword, because I can guarantee you the stadium would be burnt down if they did that. But it's not like we're in a bad position. He has an equal opportunity to win trophies with us as he does with Madrid. The only thing is that Madrid will basically manipulate all sorts of players to come to them. And it's not as if he has no opportunity to win trophies with us. So it either does mean more or it doesn't, and you just want to go and win trophies.
All I'll say is that people are allowed to be hypocrites and they're allowed to make bad decisions.
Oh, absolutely.
But
choices have consequences. Choices have consequences. And if he wants to be a hypocrite, he has every right to be that hypocrite, but he will be called a hypocrite. There's a reason Michael Owen is not welcome around Anfield. And he says he's sad about it. Nobody gives a shit. There's a reason he's not welcome around Anfield. Spencer, I apologize. We have completely shut you out of this side of the debate and this side of the argument. Please give us your thoughts on it as well. I'm Irish. Dan is American. You're obviously from that side of the pond as well. None of us are Scouse, but I'd like to think that I'm probably closer to Scouse than most people in England at this rate, considering basically everybody in Liverpool is related to Ireland at this point. But knowing how previous players have gone overseas, like realistically, the only one that's probably gone away from us and succeeded is probably Suarez. And if you take a look at the English players that have gone to Real Madrid, David Beckham, Gareth Bale, even though he's Welsh, before anybody goes down my throat over that, none of them have really succeeded. Jude obviously seems to be the exception, but not the rule at the moment. And even so, he's had his struggles this season after an electrifying first season. Do you think Trent will succeed if he goes to Real Madrid, or will it be much a similar situation as like Philip Coutinho when he went to Barcelona and just completely flopped?
That's a good question. And so I'm not that old. I was not following Liverpool. I was like in a stroller when Michael Owen left for Real Madrid. So bear that in mind, that my frame of reference is much more modern than that. But I think at least like with Suarez and Coutinho, there is like the link to Barcelona that all South Americans have. And so you can almost forgive them because they also weren't homegrown. Like, yeah, like if I was them in their shoes, I can't blame them. Barcelona is more of like a homecoming, and Liverpool was kind of like the stop to get there. Go have your fun. Thanks for getting the club some money, and like best wishes. And that's, I think, the perception with a lot of players that would leave that aren't English. The difference with Jude is he wasn't really in the first team when he was in England. His stop before that was Dortmund. I think to me, that's where the biggest difference in perception is with Trent. And also let's not forget, like, Real Madrid is like the biggest propaganda machine on the planet. We thought for 9 months that Vinny was winning Ballon d'Or until about 12 minutes before it was announced. And then it was like, oh, actually, it wasn't actually that close. It was always going to be Rodri. They just had you believe that it was going to be Vinny. So I think a lot of the progress that they've made with Trent, that you see a lot of these reports, it's just Paris mouthpieces speaking on the best interest of the club, not actually reporting the truth. I think the offer that they put out was like probably the biggest indication of interest that they could, given the circumstances. They want to show Trent that they're interested in signing him, which is obviously evident. And to do that, they would have to make an offer like this. There isn't like a back channel way that they could go through. I mean, they could go through to his agents. They could go through to any number of other channels, but to show like concrete evidence, I think that's probably what the offer was, more so than it was any chance of being accepted, or they want him to join in January or anything like that. It's just the only way that they could get through to him, that they are interested. All the other stuff that it's, they've like, it's all but guaranteed that he's going to be signing. This is just Real Madrid propaganda. I don't believe it. I don't care it. Like this was the first time where I actually saw it, and I was like, okay, there is like real interest, and there is actually potentially fire to all of this smoke. In terms of how he would do if he goes there, tactically, I don't understand why Real Madrid wants him so bad. They're bleeding at the back. Their defense is really injured. They need defenders. They don't need wide area creators at right back. They're thinking about signing Alphonso Davies. He's an even more forward fullback than Trent is. I don't know. From a star power, I get it. And like he is the best fullback in the world, but he's not really what they need there. So, yeah, I don't know. I think he may just – Real Madrid's already struggling from there's only one ball on the pitch scenario. It's like when in the NBA when they load up a super team and it's like, oh, actually the third and fourth best players who were used to being the first best players can't get their shots up. It's the same things happening there. It's just not all working. And I don't think adding another ball-oriented creator is really going to move the needle for them. So for that, I actually think Trent it's actually probably not a smart move for his career. I think he will be looked at as more of a flop because he won't have the impact on the team as the same he would at Liverpool, where he is relied upon so much. And he's going to be asked to do a lot of the dirty work there at Real Madrid. If he does go there, he's not asked to do as much at Liverpool. That doesn't suit him. That doesn't suit him as being a star. And I don't think that aspect of it, outside of just the big name player goes to big name club, that's being talked about. I don't think the actual fit in the team is being talked about that much. And to me, it really doesn't make much sense.
I agree with Spencer on that part because I think with Madrid's transfer strategy has been very weird the past couple of years. I think people have everyone talks about Real Madrid as these pinnacles of like ambition and success, and that's because the team that won so much was a team that was put together like 10 years ago. Like Modric, Cruz, they bought all these players from, I believe Cruz was either at Munich or Leverkusen at the time, and Modric was Tottenham. They actually bought very smartly about 10, 12 years ago. About 10, 12 years ago, Casemiro as well. And then they built that team in a very smart, fleshed out way. But they've gone back to this old model of the Galacticos where they're just like, what's the biggest name? We'll get them. Like Tchouaméni is an exception to that, where Aurelien Tchouaméni was someone that was a very smart buy to progress that midfield. But they only got Tchouaméni because they couldn't get Mbappe. And so they've been after Mbappe forever. Vinicius was one of these 30 million pound players they bought from Brazil. Endrick, who is Endrick Konate. Endrick is, again, one of those other 30 million pound players who hasn't there yet, but he's developing. Rodrigo, who is also there, again, 30 million pound player from Brazil. So Madrid have a very weird approach to transfers the past 5-6 years. And Trent doesn't make sense because, like he said, like they don't have center backs. They need center backs. And they want to get Alphonso Davies too, who is just an upgrade on Ferdinand Mendy. So rather than being a more defensive left back, he's a more expansive left back. And honestly, all of this is the only thing I can say to Spencer is that they're just buying players that they think will fit Xabi Alonso when they bring in Xabi Alonso next year for Carlo Ancelotti, which is why I think they want. Well, I think that's why Trent is the one they really want. Is besides the fact that the right back, they want someone that's going to fit Xabi's system, and they might even put him in midfield. You never know.
I think he'd go into that Frimpong role.
Yeah, that's why. Yes. Okay, Spencer.
He's not. I don't think he's a good Frimpong fit. Frimpong's a runner, and
Alexander-Arnold's
a ball player.
I agree, but Xabi might make it so that the right wing back or the right back is more of a right mid, and that there's so many small tactical tweaks that you can do in terms of responsibility with positioning. Like Frimpong is essentially, he's an athlete. He runs up and down. He's a wide attacking fullback / wing back in a very Connor Bradley, Andy Robinson sense.
What I found very interesting is immediately after Trent's all this talk celebration, there was a hit piece from Marca out within the hour, which I thought was quite funny. That basically just said he won't be allowed to be like that at Madrid, so don't expect him to be like that. Okay, so that really just hammers home the point Dan is making is you want him because he's a flashy name. You're basically Man United, is what Real Madrid are kind of doing currently at the moment, which is you're basically Man United with a fancy coat on because you're just signing him for the sake of signing him. Now, as Dan mentioned, if it is for Xabi Alonso to come in 12 months' time or in 9 months' time, then that's great future planning for them, but it's going to cost them a pretty penny. And the second Real Madrid fans see him get beaten at the back post, or get sent to the shops by Nico Williams or any of the other tricky dribblers that are in La Liga, I guarantee you it won't be a warm reception for him from the fans, because these are the same guys that booed Casillas, booed Ronaldo, and currently want Kylian Mbappe put to the guillotine.
And again, they only offered 12 million for him, allegedly. I don't know if that figure's accurate. I was trying to pull.
It's between. I think it's between 12. I've seen 12 million. I've seen 15 million. I've seen 20 million. I've seen 25.
It's the same as Jordan Henderson. Is my point. It's roughly the same that Saudi Arabia paid for Jordan Henderson. So. So Madrid are broke is my point. They don't have a lot of money to spend on players, and they need to buy defenders. They have to buy so many different players. They're not that deep of a team. So the fact they are trying to get Trent on the cheap, so to speak, and sign him up tells me that, one, they can't guarantee, they're not 100% sure he's coming in the summer, or he's going to sign, or he might re-sign with Liverpool. Because again, it should be stressed, all three players currently have contract offers from Liverpool. They're in discussions. They haven't been denied or disagreed, but they all currently have offers. So that's the one thing we know. So Madrid are obviously thinking, we thought this was in the bag. This probably isn't the bag. Let's see if we can throw some money at the problem to do that. And maybe it was Trent's representative, his brother, who said, throw some money at them, see what they say.
And John here mentioning about Trent's brother is his agent, so he gets a nice bonus if he joins Madrid. We need more clarity from him in the club, in my opinion.
Those
are
capped now.
Much more.
Yeah, they're capped now, aren't they? Agents' fees are capped now by FIFA.
Yeah,
those came in this year. Like 3%, 1%, 7%, 6%. Okay, sorry, Steve. I mean to interrupt you there.
It's okay. No, you're right. I don't think the club can give you any clarity on it, John, other than what they already have in regards to what they briefed those couple of journalists with earlier, because they all came out with the exact same article, 3 different news outlets, basically. Poor James Pearce didn't get a look in, though. Poor fella. It was everybody else but him. He was last to the news. But yeah, it's a funny one, because realistically, we could sit here talking for another hour about this, but we are not going to, because we're going to move on to a latter topic. And as Dan mentioned, all of the guys have contracts. David Ornstein thinks that both Salah and Van Dijk will get 2-year contracts, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. If Trent elects to go, I can imagine those contracts being moved to 3-year contracts, but I think they're in the right realm at the moment of 2-year contracts. The dream, personally, will be the James Milner contract. Just keep renewing on a yearly basis until you decide to call it quits. That kind of a way. I think that would probably be the best way to go about it, personally. But we are going to move on, and before we do so, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos as well, so that you never miss out. So, it being currently New Year's Eve, we are going to do a year in review somewhat. So I'm going to give you a couple of topics, and I want everybody in the chat to do this as well. So I'm going to put these into the comments here. So I want everybody to do these. So player of the year of 2024 is a year in total. Young player of the year, most improved player of the year, unsung hero, best goal, best game, favorite moment, and saddest moment. I think I know everybody's saddest moment, but Dan, I'll start with you, and if you could give me your top to bottom on that, and then I'll go to Spencer, and then I'll give my own one. So it's there in the comments here. So player of the year, young player of the year, most improved player of the year, unsung hero, best goal, best game, favorite moment, and saddest moment.
So player of the year. So I think it's easily been Mohamed Salah. I think for at least this half of the year. I think before then, player of the year would have been difficult. You think you could make an argument for Van Dijk because he's been the most consistent. It's been Van Dijk and it has been Salah. Young player of the year, it's Connor Bradley. I don't think there's anybody else that comes close. Maybe Jiro Kwanzaa. But I want to give it to Bradley because Bradley has the most difficult job, and I think I don't remember Connor Bradley having a bad game. Is my point. Like he's maybe made mistakes, but he's never been like terrible for a half or 20 or 30 minutes. He's been solid to okay, and I think in his position that's perfectly fine. Most improved player, it's difficult. I want to say maybe this is controversial. I think it's Gravenberch is the most improved player by far, but I think that's improved mostly because his position's just been solidified more, so there's more certainty. Mm-hmm. But I think going from someone where people are saying, "Why are we spending 30 million on here?" JMU says Jones. No, because Jones was always good, and people just need to accept that he's always been good, and that he's always been good. Like I don't know what to tell people. This has always been who Curtis Jones is. Unsung hero. Whew, this is different. Unsung hero. Who doesn't get a lot of praise in this team? I think it's
Everyone.
Szoboszlai. Everyone, yeah. No, that's true. Everyone. I think it's Szoboszlai. I think Szoboszlai has been the unsung hero because he got injured. He was part of that thrashing of Newcastle, I think of Chelsea when they just absolutely blitzed Chelsea off the park this year. He's been very, I think Szoboszlai has been very unsung in the sense that he does a lot of work with this team off the ball and on the ball. Slot might by another forward/10 last year, moved Dom deeper. Dominic Szoboszlai deeper, which I think is probably what he'll do. Everyone keeps calling out for a 6. I think our new number 6 is going to be Dominic Szoboszlai, and I hate to break that to people. Our rotation with Gravenberch. Best game? It's the Madrid one because we just blitzed them off the game. Favorite moment? It's easy. EFL Cup win. I mean, that's just the moment as well. Saddest moment? It's Klopp leaving. I think is the most saddest moment. I don't think there's been anything as well. Yeah, you can definitely make an argument for Joe Gomez. People talking about being unsung, but people have come around to Joe Gomez being a good player. So I just feel like someone that has still been criticized a lot is Szoboszlai. And I think he's been my unsung. That would be mine. What would be yours? What would be your steer? You're gonna go last.
I'll go last. Spencer,
Okay.
you go next. So who's yours? I'll put them up here again for you. So player of the year, young player of the year, most improved, unsung hero, best goal, best game, favorite moment, saddest moment.
Yeah, Dan, we had a lot of the same, so I'm glad I wrote down some alternatives. Obviously, player of the year is Salah. He's the best player in the world currently. You can't be the best player in the world and not be the best player on your own team. So Salah is the player of the year for me. Also, Connor Bradley as the youngest player. I was trying to think of another alternative, but I couldn't. So that's not one of the ones I have an alternative answer. I think he's pretty clearly been the best young player in the squad. Most improved, I did have Gravenberch, obviously. He said it might be controversial. I was like, no, I think it's pretty obvious that it's him. I did have Curtis Jones written down as an alternative, so I guess I'll save that one since you think he's always been good. But another one would be Cody Gakpo. I think the level that he's playing at now is much different than what he was at the beginning of last year. That jump is, if not for Gravenberch, he'd probably be my second answer. So I think he's also worth mentioning. Unsung hero, I thought Kelleher was a pretty easy answer here. Besides the Newcastle game, when he stepped in for Ali, I mean, he was just about that same level, helped us keep chugging along. So he got credit in the moment, but I don't think we really realized how difficult it is to replace Alisson and to perform at that level. So he's my answer there. Goal is Van Dijk's header against Chelsea. That's also the best moment for me, was that. Best game, same thing, battering of Real Madrid. That's also thinking about that within the context of this Trent situation. It's like, you're really leaving for a club that's inferior to us, to your boyhood club that's worse than us, that we just smoked. Yeah, that was my favorite game to watch this year. And then saddest moment, obviously, it's Klopp's farewell. But another alternative I had was the FA Cup loss to United. That was not so much sad as it was kind of like deflating, as like, damn, with the way that the game went. And then it seemed like, I think, were we still on for 4 at that point?
Yeah, we were still on for a quadruple at that point, yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of took the wind out of the sails for Klopp's last season. So that was my alternative one. But yeah, a lot of the same answers as Dan. Yeah,
no, I don't disagree with you. There's a lot of them there, but my ones might be a little bit different to that. Player of the year I have is Van Dijk. And that's not to say that Mo Salah hasn't been one of the best players on the planet, but Van Dijk is currently suffering from success. That man has never put a foot wrong in the last 12 months. And because it is so expected, it just looks normal, which I think is absolute madness. Player of the year is Van Dijk, without a question. I think he's one of the most important players on the team, and it is vital that he's one of the people that we end up re-signing. Young player of the year, I think, was Connor Bradley or Jarell Kwanzaa. If you wanted to break it up into halves, you could probably go Jarell Kwanzaa in the latter half of last season, and then Connor Bradley in this half of this season. But Connor Bradley was also good in the latter part of last season as well, when Trent was out, which I think tips it for him. Personally, most improved player, I have it between 2. It would be Curtis Jones as one, and Ryan Gravenberch is another. The reason I say Curtis Jones is because the knock that everybody had against Curtis Jones for the longest time is that Jim Hughes, yes, they will be on, so don't worry about that. Star Stripes and Anfield Light will be on later on this evening, so don't stress about that. Dan won't be on it.
Not me. I'm cooking.
Yeah.
I have a wife to keep happy. We have to balance. We have to balance up the fun and the home duties.
It's all blame Dan's wife. Dan's wife is why Trent isn't re-signing.
No, always blame the wife. Steve knows what I'm talking about. He'll know what I'm talking about in the future.
Yeah. For those that don't know what Dan's talking about, I got engaged. She said yes over Christmas, so congrats to me. But most improved player I would have had is Curtis Jones, because the biggest knock on Curtis Jones would have been that he wasn't consistent enough and didn't put together enough good games in a row in order to, make the stats like, maybe this year he'll make the jump. Maybe next year he'll make the jump. Maybe in the next time he gets a goal, he'll make the jump. And he just kind of hasn't. And he's kind of remained very similar to the same player every year. And then now he's kind of shown, like, there was flashes of qualities. Dan mentioned, on his day, he's a very, very good player. And he can be a very, very good player. I don't think he's a 10. I think he's very much more suited to the double pivot in this particular system, because he's very press resistant, he's very good on the ball, and he's very hard to get the ball off of. And that's beautiful if you're in the double pivot. Not so much when you're in the 10 and he holds on to the ball too much. The game against Leicester had it inside the box three different times. Yes, Jamie, that's why the bike was sold, because the ring. Thanks so much as well. But what I had, he was 5 yards out, took 3 touches, and the ball got taken off him, and I was just so annoyed. Then he was just inside the box and done the same thing twice, took 2 or 3 extra touches, and then lost the ball, and it's just infuriating that. But I think moving him back and having McAllister up as a 10 or your Dom up as a 10, completely different story, and you probably get the best out of Jones that way, especially considering how Klopp has kind of changed him to be that presser, that ball winner, so to speak, rather than a 10 or an attacker. Unsung hero, I have 2 of them. Wataru Endo is one of them. That man I would run through walls for. I have never seen such a man that's that devoted and that professional, and comes in, and even after missing 3 or 4 games and doesn't get a minute, comes in and puts in a half an hour shift like he never left. Another unsung hero, and I wanted to point this out as well, is Darwin Núñez. And the reason I point that out is because not a lot of people will believe this, but he was our second biggest contributor last season on goals and assists. And nobody will believe me when I say that. He outpaced Salah last season for goals and assists. Per 90, by the way. In 400 minutes less. But nobody will believe me on that until I actually show you it. Jota was like, averaged a goal or assist 1.01 per 90. Darwin was 0.84 per 90, and Salah was 0.82 per 90. So everybody's saying that Salah is an unbelievable goal scorer. Darwin was better. But it's that would be another one. But realistically, it's Endo. It has to be Endo, because and as well Kelleher also. There's, I guess, 3, and that's maybe some Irish national bias coming in there. Best goal, it's between Alexi McAllister against Fulham and Endo against Fulham, both in the same game. McAllister against Fulham just did such a sweet connection from outside the box and straight into the top corner. And then Endo, when we're 3-2 down in the dying minutes of the game, and your CDM that nobody expects to score a goal just whips one out and puts it in top bins. It had the place going absolutely mental. I think I nearly fell out of my seat. Best game, I would have to say, was that Carabao Cup final. I jumped up and roared and shouted and banged at the coffee table so loudly our neighbours thought I was beating my now fiance, and knocked on the door to check if everything was okay. My favourite moment was, what was the game where they all ran over to the corner and some fan or some steward got involved and Ibrahima Konate is slapping the head of him?
Was
and
it
then
Forrest?
I think it might. I don't know if it was Forrest or not, because Núñez kicks the sign. I could have been Forrest. I don't know. And Núñez scored that 90+9 winner. But Kanate basically slapping the guy's head, taking his hat and just fucking it into the crowd was probably one of my favorite moments. Either that or the reaction to Virgil van Dijk's goal from Szoboszlai, Curtis Jones, Darwin Núñez, and all the boys in the stand. Poor Curtis Jones nearly gets thrown down the stairs while he's in his injury boot. And Darwin and Dominic Szoboszlai, who have leg injuries at the time, both hurdled 2 different barriers in one stride. So that's another one. But yeah, that's probably, and then obviously the saddest moment would probably be obviously Klopp leaving. My girlfriend and now fiance never watched football, and then when I told her like the manager was leaving and she seen how upset I was, she's kind of like, "Oh, get over yourself." She watched his final game ceremony. She cried. So that will show you in the space of 6 months what an effect that man has on people. So that would have been my saddest moment, personally.
There's a video of his last like dressing room speech where he literally says like, "It's like, you guys are so brilliant. I can't wait to see what you'll become." So it was actually one of those things where, you know, which is good. Like he's off doing global scouting for Red Bull. He's living his best grandpa life now.
Yeah, and he's come on Instagram being like, "This is how you can keep up with me. You don't, even though I'm not there anymore," kind of a thing. It's very old grandpa.
Just a shout from Jay Muse. Yeah, this is definitely one too. But there's a lot of like opposition chanting that's been going on about poverty and stuff with Hillsborough too that just needs to be put in the bin. But the Premier League and the FA are allergic to. Yeah, exactly. And the FA and the Premier League are allergic to taking any sort of action against justice, any sort of justice action. So we're not going to touch that.
Yeah, it's just pure. And also anybody thinking that Richard Hughes was allowed to take a holiday, by the way, is having a laugh. Yes, let's just go on holiday when it's the most important part of the year. There's no way they'd allow that. But guys, we're going to finish it there. We're going to finish it a little bit early. I hope everybody had a lovely time this evening before New Year's. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure your notifications are on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out as well. We will be live again later on this evening from that's in the pathetic category with regards to the poverty chat, and that's perfectly correct, Derek. So we'll be back again later on this evening for any of our American friends or night owls, as Jay has just mentioned there in the chat. 2 a.m. British Standard Time or 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be around. Drew will be looking after you guys tonight. Otherwise, we'll be back again tomorrow from 7:30 p.m. Lou will be on 7:30 p.m. tomorrow, so make sure you're around for that. Make sure you have your notifications on, and you'll never miss out. But from myself, Dan, and Spencer, thank you guys so much for joining us this evening, and we hope everybody has a wonderful New Year's. Bye-bye.